killer stalked the streets of Northern California, taunting police with cryptic letters, challenging them to stop him, but they never did. For over 50 years, the Zodiac Killer has evaded capture. How did one man outsmart an entire nation? Let's uncover the mystery behind one of the most chilling cold cases in history. In the late 1960s, fear took hold of Northern California as a terrifying figure emerged from the shadows: the Zodiac Killer. But this wasn't just another murderer. This was a killer who played games with the public, taunted the media, and challenged the police with cryptic puzzles. His cryptic ciphers promised to reveal his identity, yet, even today, his name remains a mystery. He claimed to have killed dozens, although police confirmed 5 brutal murders. So who was this killer? And how did he manage to evade capture despite being so brazen? It all started on a cold night, December the 20th, 1968. Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, 2 teenagers on their first date, parked along the quiet Lake Herman Road. Out of the darkness, the Zodiac struck, killing them both in cold blood. They were young, full of life, their futures stolen in an instant. The community was shocked, but no one could have guessed this was only the beginning. Just months later, on July the 4th, 1969, Darlene Ferrin and Mike Maggio were parked at Blue Rock Springs. Out of nowhere, a figure approached their car and opened fire. Darlene died, but Mike survived, barely. He gave police the first description of their attacker: a white male, about 5'8", stocky build. But even with this description, the authorities were left with more questions than answers. What made the Zodiac terrifying wasn't just the violence, it was the randomness. He chose secluded spots, innocent victims, leaving no trace behind. He was like a phantom, striking without warning and vanishing into the night. Then came the letters. On August the 1st, 1969, 3 newspapers received nearly identical letters from the killer. Each contained a chilling message signed with an eerie crosshair symbol. This is the Zodiac speaking. He bragged about the murders and included a cipher, 408 characters long, that he claimed held the key to his identity. The Zodiac had one demand: publish my letter or more people will die. The newspapers complied, and within days, 2 amateur codebreakers, Donald and Betty Harden, cracked the cipher. The message? A twisted confession of the killer's joy in hunting humans, but no name. The Zodiac reveled in the thrill of his power, laughing as he manipulated the media, the police, and the public. Fear spread across California. Everyone waited for the next letter, the next killing, the next clue. The Zodiac was no longer just a killer. He was a symbol of fear, unpredictability, and untouchability. September 27th, 1969. The serene setting of Lake Berryessa became the Zodiac's next hunting ground. Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard were enjoying a peaceful afternoon when the Zodiac emerged, this time in a chilling disguise. An executioner's hood with the crosshair symbol boldly stitched on his chest. He tied them up and brutally stabbed them. Cecilia didn't survive. Just weeks later, he struck again, this time in broad daylight in the heart of San Francisco. Paul Stein, a cab driver, was shot in the head by the Zodiac in Presidio Heights. It was a bold, calculated move, his most public killing yet. But in one of the most haunting missed opportunities in criminal history, responding officers mistook the killer for an ordinary passerby and let him slip away into the night. The Zodiac, of course, couldn't resist bragging. He sent yet another letter, complete with a piece of Paul Stein's blood-stained shirt. He mocked the police, daring them to catch him. All the while, the entire city was gripped with fear. But it wasn't just his killings that kept the authorities and the world on edge. His ciphers remained a mystery for decades. One of the most famous was the 340-character cipher sent after Paul Stein's murder. For years, cryptographers and codebreakers tried to solve it. But it wasn't until 2020, over 50 years later, that it was finally cracked. The solution? Another chilling message, but no name. "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me," the Zodiac sneered. His ciphers were like twisted riddles, games designed to taunt and confuse. He had promised to reveal his name, but once again, he stayed hidden in the shadows. Over the years, Investigators chased down countless leads, each one more tantalizing than the last. The most famous suspect? Arthur Lee Allen, a convicted child predator whose behavior fit the profile in so many ways. He had spoken to friends about killing couples, wore a Zodiac brand watch with the killer's crosshair symbol, and lived near the murder scenes. But despite the circumstantial evidence, no concrete proof ever linked him to the crimes. Other suspects emerged, each one with their own suspicious ties to the case. Ross Sullivan, who acted strangely after the first killing, or Richard Gajkowski, whose appearance eerily matched the Zodiac's description. But no one was ever definitively named as the killer. The Zodiac always seemed one step ahead. Was he just incredibly lucky? Or was there something more sinister at play? Was it possible that the Zodiac knew how to manipulate not just his victims, but the very people hunting him? Why couldn't they catch him? In part, the Zodiac benefited from the times. In the 1960s and 70s, police departments didn't communicate the way they do now. Key pieces of information were lost or mismanaged across jurisdictions. At the same time, the Zodiac was meticulous. He left almost no evidence behind. No clear fingerprints, no obvious clues, and back then DNA testing was still science fiction. The chilling reality is that the Zodiac seemed to understand the system better than anyone. He wiped down crime scenes, sent letters that revealed just enough to toy with the authorities, and always chose his moments carefully, as if he knew just how to keep himself one step ahead. But the investigation isn't over. Today, with advancements in forensic science, there's still hope that DNA collected from his letters or crime scenes could finally reveal his identity. Like other infamous cold cases, perhaps the Zodiac's time is running out. The Zodiac Killer wasn't just a murderer. He was a master of fear, leaving behind a trail of terror that still haunts us today. Decades later, we're still asking, will we ever know who he was? Or will the Zodiac remain in the shadows forever? Thank you for watching. If you're fascinated by unsolved mysteries and want to dive deeper into the unknown, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Until next time, stay curious.